Yes, I can see the screen.
Okay. Today we will be starting from question number 261. Okay.
Yeah, we still are on information risk management.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Should I read
Do you
it?
want? Okay, I'll read the first one. A common concern with poorly written web application is that they can allow an attacker to A, gain control through a buffer overflow, B, conduct a distributed denial of service DOS attack, C, abuse and race condition, D, inject structured query language SQL statement. So a common concern when a web application is written poorly, yeah? What is the common concern?
Race condition.
Sorry?
Abuse a race condition for me. It is the
No,
biggest concern.
never, ever.
Buffer overflow. These two for me.
Neither of them.
Okay.
Okay. I can only defer to you because I have studied ethical hacking in my degree as well. So it's always the SQL because obviously you are trying to get into right queries, which can actually communicate and do the exploit on the web application. So definitely it's going to be SQL. I'm not even in doubt.
Okay, let me check. Let's go for the answer. Okay. Most common and dangerous web application. But it is not necessary that a web application should contain a database on its backend.
Mostly we do.
Yeah, mostly it is, but it is not a necessity. I mean, it's not necessary. What do you say?
Oh, those websites who are just out there as a public front or posters or anything, they are not really at risk from anything. The real websites have functionality, and when you have functionality, you need database, right?
Yeah.
If in order to perform queries for, even if you want to sort of like, let's say you're talking about British Airways website, and
Okay.
you want to know anything, you have a lot of databases within there, which obviously gives you access. What are the rules for COVID? What are the facilitation British Airways is doing at the moment? Blah, blah, blah. Once you have access through the database and you actually manage to get in there as a user and then do escalation of privilege. So basically, what are you doing? You're doing exploits. Yeah. So poorly written, obviously, you're going to do that by SQL, right? Writing injection
And type of
SQL there.
injection attack, it's not necessarily be a SQL injection, but can be other type of injection attacks.
It can be, but
Yes.
the SQL one is the most common one.
Yeah, SQL one is the most common. Agree.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next one. Should I read it out?
I'll read this one as well.
Okay.
Which of the following would be of greatest importance to security manager in determining whether to accept a residual risk? One, historical cost of asset. Two, acceptable level of potential business impact. Three, cost versus benefit of additional mitigation control. And D, annualized loss expectancy, which is ALE. So which of the following would be greatest importance to the security manager in determining whether to accept residual risk or not?
Should be
So
acceptable.
historical cost, level of potential business impact, the
Yeah,
cost versus benefit, or ALE. Which one?
I guess it should be acceptable level on the business impact.
Acceptable level of potential business impact.
Yeah, it should be the greatest
So
importance.
what? So the greatest importance to the security manager in accepting whether to accept risk or not.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be cost versus benefit.
Uh-huh. Additional mitigating controls means it is already there, but
Yeah, I know. So
mhm.
when it comes to additional, this
Mhm.
is what I'm saying, that when you are adding more
Mhm.
value to it, you're bringing more cost into it. Are you getting the same benefit out of it? Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're not, then you're gonna say, okay, I'll go to the acceptable level of potential business impact. Yeah.
Means
That
acceptable
is
level should come first, right?
no, no.
No?
But okay, let me put it in a common sense, right?
Okay.
No, in a common sense scenario, where if I was to say to you
Mhm.
that, hey, um, you know, you're buying these shoes, yeah,
Mhm.
and these shoes, if you buy this polish with it, it can make your shoes waterproof. Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
So you will analyze in your head cost
Mhm.
of the polish
Yeah, definitely. Mhm.
versus benefit of additional mitigation controls. Yeah, you'll say, do I really go in rain? Okay, if you don't go in rain, yeah,
Mhm.
so why would you even need to spend that kind of like cost on there? So you will actually think in your head, I live in Saudi Arabia, I don't get that much rain. Yeah.
Mhm.
Whereas I might be thinking, hey, I live in UK and I get a lot of rain. Yeah.
Mhm. Uh-huh.
I may decide to buy it and you may not decide to. So it is cost versus benefit.
Okay. Let's reveal the answer then. C. Okay. The security manager would be most concerned with whether residual risk would be reduced by a greater amount than the cost of adding additional controls. The other choices, although relevant, would not be as important. Okay, great.
I think we have explained it
Hmm.
thoroughly in detail,
Hmm.
so should be fine. Next question, please.
Let's move. Next one. Project manager is developing a developer portal and requests that the security manager assigns a public IP address so that it can be accessed by in-house staff and by external consultants outside the organization's local area network. What should the security manager do first? A.
Yeah.
Understand the business requirement of the developer portal. B. Perform a vulnerability assessment of the developer portal. C. Install an intrusion detection system. D. Obtain a signed non-disclosure agreement from the external consultants before allowing external access to the server.
Yeah. Which one do you think is the right one? So project manager is developing a developer portal and is asking the security to give him a public IP so external consultants can and in-house staff, yeah,
Yeah,
can access it. So first step first.
understand the business requirements, I guess, of the developer portal.
Yeah, yeah, that would be the right one. That's the first step.
Mhm.
So what should the security manager do first? First thing I think it is then understand the business requirements of the developer portal. So
Yes.
that's the
Yeah,
right one.
because without understanding how you can get the rest of the things. The rest are also okay, but the first priority should be to understand the business requirements. Okay, was the answer. Yeah, it's A. Okay, let's move to the next one. A mission critical system has been identified as having an administrative system account with attributes that prevent locking and change of privileges and name, which would be the best approach to prevent successful brute forcing of the account. A, prevent the system from being accessed remotely. B, create a strong random password. C, ask for a vendor patch. D, track usage of the account by audit trails.
So you have identified a system account. You want to achieve the best approach to prevent brute force attack. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one is the best one?
Create a strong random password.
Yeah, because obviously that makes more sense than anything else, because remotely you may need, it's a mission critical, so obviously you may need access. Vendor patch won't help. Audit trail would be too late.
Yeah, because it's a detective control, not a preventive one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's move to the next one. Okay. Attackers who exploit cross-site scripting vulnerabilities take advantage of A, a lack of proper input validation controls, B, weak authentication controls in the web application layer, C, flawed cryptographic security sockets layer implementations and short key lengths, D, implicit web application trust relationships.
Yeah, well, I have studied ethical hacking, so I can't go wrong on that. So I'm just gonna let you answer this one.
Lack of proper input validation controls.
Yes. Yes, input validation is the right answer, because you are always trying to exploit the input validation controls. Yeah, once you have exploited a validation sort of control, then you have hit the jackpot, and
Yeah.
you can move forward into a phase of exploitation.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
The next one. Which of the following?
Was it the right answer? Sorry,
Yeah, it was the right answer.
I didn't.
See,
Okay.
A, cross-site scripting attacks.
Yeah, that's fine. Let's move to the next one. I could be wrong. I am confident, but sometimes, you can be wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Which of the following would best address the risk of data leakage? A, file backup procedures. B, data integrity checks. C, acceptable use policies. D, incident response procedures.
I do a lot of DLP, so I think I won't go wrong on this one either.
Risk of data leakage.
Sorry?
Risk of data leakage.
Yeah, risk of data leakage. Which one is it?
I guess file backup procedures.
No.
No.
Which of the following would best address the risk of, you are addressing the risk. So you will apply policies on there, conditional access
use
policies.
policies.
Yeah. So you will conditional access policies, acceptable use policies. You will have acceptable use policies are direct. No, conditional access policies is directly proportional to acceptable use, because you have put the condition in order to sort of like fulfill the need of acceptable use. So anything which is not acceptable should be addressed with the conditional access policies.
Got your point now.
So it should be always C, I think.
Yeah, it should be the C. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay, would you read
Let
it?
me read this one.
Yeah.
A company recently developed a breakthrough technology. Since the technology could give this company a significant competitive edge, Which of the following would first govern how this information is to be protected? So it's a breakthrough technology.
Mhm.
They'll get a edge. And which of the following would first govern how this information is to be protected? So are we going to have access control policy? Are we going to have a data classification policy? Are we going to have encryption standards, or are we going to have acceptable use policy?
Should be data classification.
Yeah, data classification comes first.
Yeah.
Right?
Then
But
access control.
yeah, I agree with you there.
Okay. Yeah, it's the right answer. Let's move to
Mm.
the next one. Okay. What is the best technique to determine which security controls to implement with a limited budget? A, risk analysis. B, analyzed loss expectancy calculations. C, cost benefit analysis. D, impact analysis. With a limited
Yeah,
budget we are talking about, so it should definitely be cost benefit analysis. What do you say?
yeah, that's right. I agree.
Yeah.
If I had unlimited budget, then I wouldn't bother with this.
Yeah. Let's move to the next one. A company's mail server allows anonymous file transfer protocol access, which could be exploited. What
Mm.
process should the information security manager deploy to determine the necessity for remedial action? A penetration test. B, a security baseline review. C, a risk assessment. D, a business impact analysis.
Hmm. A company's mail service allows anonymous file transfer protocol (FTP) access, which could be exploited. What process should the information security deploy to determine the necessity for remedial action? Okay, so you could do a risk assessment, and you could do
Business impact analysis could be risk assessment, but I'm in between these two.
you can do a pen test as well,
Yeah, but pen test could be a subset of risk assessment as well.
Yeah, well, I think risk assessment is the best
Yeah,
answer.
I'm thinking of risk assessment as well. Let's reveal
Mm.
the answer. Yeah, risk assessment. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Is this session recorded?
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
It is being
Okay.
recorded.
Yeah, we couldn't provide any information to Farouk last time. That's why I'm just sort of like, okay, is it recorded?
Yeah, inshallah, this time he will get it.
Okay, that's good.
Okay, question number 270. Which of the following measures would be most effective against insider threats to confidential information? A,
That's
role-based
very,
access
that's
control.
very simple.
B, audit trail monitoring. C, privacy policy. D, defense in depth.
Very, very simple.
Yeah, privacy policy or
No,
defense in depth. Defense in depth.
no,
No,
no.
role-based access control. Sorry, insider threat.
Role-based access control, because
Yeah,
whatever you do, and if I know what you do, then obviously I know first to even begin with. If I have set a role-based access control, then I can narrow it down to those people who could potentially do it, and then do a little audit and find out who did it. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it will be role-based, I believe.
A role-based access control. Yeah, you're right. Okay, next question. Okay, would you read it out?
You can read it out. That's fine. No,
Okay.
it's all right. I'll do it. Because of its importance to the business, an organization wants to quickly implement a technical solution which deviates from the company's policies. An information security manager should A. Conduct a risk assessment and allow or disallow based on the outcome. B. Recommend a risk assessment and implement only if the residual risks are accepted. C. Recommend against implementation because it violates the company's policies. D. Recommend revision of current policy. So
I
because
guess
of
it.
its importance to business, an organization wants to quickly implement a technical solution. So this is critical to business. Needs to be implemented quickly, but it does deviate from the company policy. What should you do first?
I guess it should be conduct a risk assessment and allow or disallow based on the outcome.
No, no,
No?
no. You you tell them
Hmm.
that you want to do risk assessment, and you will only uh, accept this implementation or this change,
Hmm.
yeah,
Okay.
if you accept all the risk which come out in the risk assessment, yeah.
Okay.
So
Me,
it is going to be
for you, it should be B. Recommend a risk assessment and implementation.
this is what I would do. I would recommend a risk assessment. I would not let it get implemented before they accept the risk, because that's not going to be over me, to be honest. Well, I am going to be very strict on that. I'll say I'll recommend a risk assessment, and I'll say no, no. You accept the risk, then it's fine. Yeah. But if
Okay.
you don't accept it tomorrow, I'm not gonna be sued over it. So yeah.
Okay. Got it. Got your point. Okay. Let's suppose the answer. Yeah. Okay, whenever a company's policy cannot be followed, a risk assessment should be conducted to clarify the risk. It is then up to management to accept the risk or to mitigate them. Management determines the level of risk they are willing to take. Recommending a revision of current policy should not be triggered by a single request. Okay, great. Let's move to the next one. After a risk assessment study, a bank with global operations decided to continue doing business in certain regions of the world where identity theft is rampant. The information security manager should encourage the business to A, increase its customer awareness efforts in those regions, B, implement monitoring techniques to detect and react to potential fraud, C, outsource credit card processing to a third party, D, make the customer liable for losses if they fail to follow the bank's advice.
Yeah. So which one would you do?
Where identity theft is rampant. Commission should encourage the business to increase its customer awareness efforts in those regions, implement monitoring techniques to detect and react to potential harm. Outsource, no, we will not outsource this thing. Rampant. Make the customer liable for losses if they fail to follow the bank's advice. I guess it should be legal. Why you should keep the risk to yourself? Or it comes against the awareness as well. So I'm between A and D actually.
Both are highly incorrect and bad practices. Yeah. So okay. UK has 60 million people living in UK and USA. I don't know how many. India over a billion. Pakistan over probably 200 million.
You're gonna transfer the risk. What will
So
be?
you're not going to be able to create the awareness, honestly speaking. You don't have the kind of budget and you're not going to be able to do it. Okay, making the customer liable for the losses
Mhm.
is the most conniving and the most despicable thing to do. Yeah, I would
If they
really,
fail to follow the bank's advice.
still the most despicable thing to do. Yeah,
Uh,
to make the customer liable for those losses. So I would actually implement to monitor monitoring techniques to detect and react to potential fraud. So I'll have a system in place which will actually be detective and reactive. Yeah, and stop the fraud rather than doing A and D. Yeah.
yeah, but the
So
thing is, in terms of monitoring, how you're gonna monitor the things at the customer end?
okay. Uh, Thing is, there are number of ways to monitor when a system, when a somebody is trying to get hold of um, your assets or coming into try to do the identity sort of like verification. So as long I have put down techniques which are going to sort of like monitor that this doesn't seem right. Yeah.
Mhm.
uh, for instance, IP was different. For instance, this person was far away, or for instance, they couldn't answer the security questions. Yeah. So, and then I have mm, by using these, I have monitoring techniques in place. Yeah, that okay, who is actually missing out on the critical information? Yeah, and then when someone is failing, for instance, to answer those questions, or IP is too far away, unrealistic. So rather than paying them out, I stop it and I send a message to customer, hey, I noticed you did that. Is that you? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think B is the right answer.
Okay, I'm getting bit to it. Okay, yeah. The information, okay, while customer awareness will help mitigate the risks, this is insufficient on its own to control fraud risk. Implementing monitoring techniques which will detect and deal with potential fraud cases is the most effective
Sufficient
way
to a
to
great
this.
deal, not a small deal, to a great deal. We have 60 million people living here. It's not possible to educate them. It's not possible to educate 1.2 billion Indians. It's not possible to educate
Mhm.
200 million Pakistanis and 300 million Americans. Not possible.
Okay. Let's move to the next one. The criticality and sensitivity of information assets is determined on the basis of A, threat assessment, B, vulnerability assessment, C, resource dependency assessment, D, impact assessment. Criticality
So
and sensitivity
how
of information
critical
assets.
how critical and sensitive are the information assets? Yeah,
Hmm.
how do you know? It's as simple as the name in there.
Yeah,
How
impact.
much impact is going to have? Yeah,
Yeah, impact
on
assessment.
the business function, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So impact assessment would tell us.
Exactly. That was a easy one. Let's move to the next one. Okay, which program element should be implemented first in asset classification and control? A, risk assessment, B, classification, C, valuation, D, risk mitigation. It's quite straightforward, valuation.
Yeah, I think so. It's valuation.
Yeah.
Mm.
Next. Okay, when performing a risk assessment, the most important consideration is that A, management supports risk mitigation efforts. B, annual loss expectations have been calculated for critical assets. C, assets have been identified and appropriately valued. D, attack motives, means, and opportunities be understood.
Yeah, straightforward. Again, you already answered it before. Just last question, you answered it.
Yeah, I'm just looking all the options again. Management support, risk mitigation efforts, and all loss has been calculated, assets have been identified and appropriately valued. Okay, yeah. C,
Which one?
C, right? Assets have been identified and appropriately
Yes,
valued.
because if you don't know which assets are there and how much is the value, then obviously you have nothing. Risk assessment's most important concentration is going to be identification and valuation first.
Yeah,
You answered it in last question.
yeah, yeah.
I was like, oh, this is cheeky. You know what I mean?
Actually, I'm eating and drinking as well.
No,
So,
I'm not about you talking about you. I'm talking about the question is cheeky. Like, hey,
yeah, it
you
was a
asked
bit
this
cheeky.
question in the last one and you just changed it and reshaped it and then sent it back. You know what I mean? It's the same question, literally.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next one is question number
I'll read that.
256.
So
Yeah, sure.
by the way, I've got another 2 hours plus to go. It was when I break my fast, like so. The main reason why asset classification is important to a successful information security program is because classification determines determines the priority and extent of risk mitigation efforts, or it determines the amount of insurance needed in the case of loss, or it determines the appropriate level of protection to assets, or it determines how protection levels compare to the peer organizations.
Quite straightforward. It's the appropriate level of protection to the asset.
That's right.
Yeah. Let's move to the next one. Okay, the best strategy for risk management is to A, achieve a balance between risk and organizational goals. B, reduce risk to an acceptable level. C, ensure that policy development properly considers organizational risk. D, ensure that all unmitigated risks are accepted by management.
Okay. Yeah, in information risk management, Alhamdulillah, I have been good, always good. That's why I got a first. So obviously, it, this is I am pretty sure I can fly through that,
Hmm.
and it's very very easy. And
Yeah,
what we are trying to do is put it in common sense. Yeah,
yeah,
so it works with the common sense. This is how you manage the risk. So the
exactly.
best way to manage that for risk management is you
Reduce
reduce.
risk to an acceptable level. That's it.
Yeah, yeah. It is it is the reduction.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next one. It was quite straightforward. Okay, which of the following would be the most important factor to be considered in the loss of mobile equipment with unencrypted data? Disclosure of personal information, sufficient coverage of the insurance policy for accidental losses, C, intrinsic value of the data stored on the equipment, D, replacement cost of the equipment. Most important factor to be considered in the loss of mobile equipment with unencrypted data.
Yeah. Which one is it?
Disclosure? No, hold on. Sufficient coverage or no? Intrinsic value of the data stored on the equipment, replacement cost of the equipment, no. Intrinsic value of the data stored on the equipment. I'm between A and D, A and C, sorry.
I think
See, it
Value
should
of
be
data is more important than disclosure of personal information.
yeah,
So,
C. It should be C.
so if you know my name, it is less valuable than what data I have. Yeah.
Exactly.
If you can see through my data, that would be, sorry, I'm just tidying up.
But if you are a critical asset to the organization and someone wants to, I mean, if your mobile has been lost or stolen, so he could do identity theft in order to access the facility because,
Yeah, but it's an important factor, but not the most important factor. The value of data is always.
exactly, it should comes first. So C
That's
should be
why
the
you
answer.
have a lot of fines on data loss, right?
Yeah,
When there is exposure, or if you don't look after the processes which are required by the GDPR, etc., etc. So you get a lot of big fines, right?
exactly.
Yeah,
So
so
it
it'll be
should be
different.
the intrinsic value.
I think
Right.
C. I'll be shocked if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
Yeah.
C is right. Oh. Let's move to the next one. Okay. An organization has to comply with recently published industry regulations requirements compliance that potentially has high implementation costs. What
Mm.
should the information security manager do first? A, implement a security committee. B, perform a gap analysis. C, implement compensating controls. Demand immediate compliance.
Yeah, so organization has to comply with the recent published regulatory requirements. So he has to find out whether he has already got these controls or not, right?
Yeah, perform a gap analysis then.
Then he'll do a gap analysis.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay.
I'll read it.
Yeah, sure.
Which of the following would be most relevant to include in a cost benefit analysis of a two-factor authentication system? Yeah. So the most relevant in cost benefit analysis of 2FA. Yeah.
Yeah.
So which one is it? ALE, frequency of incidents, total cost of ownership, approved budget for the project. It's not
Most
straightforward.
relevant to include in a cost benefit analysis of a two-factor authentication system. It should be related to the incidents, frequency of incidents. I don't think so. Total cost of ownership, approved budget for the project. Should be frequency of incidents. What you say should be dependent on the most relevant. No, total cost of ownership. See,
You're right. I think it's TCO as well, because I think
because
over
we
the
are looking at a cost benefit analysis.
yeah. So obviously over the period of the whole um,
It could be it could be annual loss expectancy of incidents, but the thing is, annual loss expectancy will not give you the exact. Uh, mm, it could give you a relevant cost. What do you say?
no, I think TSO would be more relevant.
Yeah, TCO should be more relevant.
TCO would be more relevant for the it'll give you the see the whole circle, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
the whole circle of whole, how do you say it, like the whole cycle, yeah,
Yeah,
of whatever is happening, and how much cost is involved can be only there when you have a total cost of the ownership, like how much is
exactly,
it going to cost me, how much is it going to cost me, yeah,
exactly, exactly.
all together. Yeah. And
Yeah.
okay, so example for that is that you want to add in
Mhm.
um, add in a security feature on your BMW, and that
Okay.
is a mobile app
Mhm.
which actually allows you to start your car, switch it off, even if it's stolen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're gonna do a total cost of the ownership analysis, like 12 month. It will cost me £1,000. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's costing me £1,000, then my insurance covers it anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So why do I need it? But if it's costing me £10 a year, yeah, then wow, I need it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, means you are looking to the total cost of ownership
Yeah,
in both scenarios.
yeah.
Yeah, that's the answer. Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay,
Okay.
next is one way to determine control effectiveness is by determining A, whether it is preventive, detective, or compensatory. B, the capability of providing notification of failure. C, the test results of intended objectives. D, the evaluation and analysis of reliability.
So you have applied a control and you want to know how effective it is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you do? What is the right one?
Evaluation and analysis of reliability. The test results of intended objectives. So I'm in between these two. The test results of intended objectives. I guess it should be C.
So you have applied this control to get these objectives.
Yeah,
So if it's getting those objectives, I think that is the right answer because
C. Yeah,
it's going to be only effective it does give you those objectives, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
C.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's move to the next one. Okay. What does a network vulnerability assessment intend to identify? A, zero-day vulnerabilities. B, malicious software and spyware. C, security design flaws. D, misconfiguration and missing updates.
Yeah, this is good for, I think risk management people may not know this. This is good for people who have studied networking and people who have actually worked in some sort of network security as well.
Yeah,
They would
security design flaws.
answer, they would answer it like so easily that when you are doing a network vulnerability assessment, what are you actually looking for?
Design flaws.
No, you're not looking for design flaws.
Sometimes misconfiguration as well.
No, you are always looking for misconfiguration and missing updates first. Yeah. So the whole vulnerability assessment is based upon, um, I think you are always looking for misconfiguration and missing updates because missing updates gives you a vulnerability. Okay. For instance, I give you an example.
But the security
Your
design flaws
VPN,
are also there because the thing is,
sorry.
if you are looking at the high availability part, there are something many times you see that okay, there are some single point of failures in the design that
Okay, but that is not part of vulnerability assessment. Yeah, vulnerability assessment is your
yeah,
VPN, your
that's
VPN,
basically yes.
your VPN or your
Yeah, got your
VPX
point now. Mhm.
is missing a critical patch or it's missing a patch which is actually causing issues or can give access. That is one thing. If you have misconfigured,
Mhm.
let's say you needed uh, sort of like a configuration in there which would stop it um, from getting exposed or vulnerable, but you have not done it. Yeah, so it'll be definitely misconfigurations
Oh,
and updates.
okay. Let's move to the next one. Who is responsible for ensuring that information is classified? A, senior management; B, security manager; C, data owner; D,
I
customer.
always get confused in this, so if I answer it, I am going to be wrong. I
It's
know for
quite easy. It's data owner.
yeah. I
Simple.
always get confused between data owner and security manager.
Yeah, it should
So
be data owner. Why
yeah,
should be? It's quite simple.
yeah,
Okay, let's move to the next one. After a risk assessment, it is determined that the cost to mitigate the risk is much greater than the benefit to be derived. The information security manager should recommend to business management that the risk be A, transferred; B, treated; C, accepted; D, terminated.
yeah. Which one?
Risk is much greater than the benefit to be derived. It is the cost to mitigate the risk. Okay. The information should recommend to business management. Accepted. Simple.
Yeah, accepted, because if you're transferring it again, you are mitigating it, so
Yeah.
the cost is already greater. Yeah,
Yeah. Mhm.
so you have to accept it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, let's move to the next one.
Yeah.
When a significant security breach occurs, what should be reported first to senior management? A summary of the security logs that illustrates the sequence of events. B, an explanation of the incident and corrective action taken. C, an analysis of the impact of similar attacks at other organizations. D, a business case for implementing stronger logical access controls.
Yeah, that's straightforward. You should be able
What
to
should be
answer it.
reported first to senior management?
Yeah,
Mm,
very straightforward. You should be able to
Yeah,
answer it.
B, an explanation of the incident and corrective action taken.
Yeah.
Yeah. Next. The primary reason for initiating a policy exception process is when A, operations are too busy to comply; B, the risk is justified by the benefit; C, policy compliance would be difficult to enforce; D, users may initially be inconvenienced. Policy exception process.
That's also very straightforward.
The risk is justified by the benefit.
Yeah. It's the rule, isn't it? That if you are making money, you don't care. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So little bit risk is fine as long as it's making me money. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay. Which of the following would be the most relevant factor when defining the information classification policy? A, quantity of information; B, available IT infrastructure; C, benchmarking; D, requirements of data owners.
Mm,
It's quite straightforward, I guess. Requirements of data owners.
I agree.
Okay, move to the next one. Okay. To determine the selection of controls required to meet business objectives, an information security manager should: A, prioritize the use of role-based access controls; B, focus on key controls; C, restrict controls to only critical applications; D, focus on automated controls.
So determine the selection of controls required to meet business objectives. Yeah. An information security manager should. Prioritize the role-based access controls. No. Focus on key controls. Yeah, maybe restrict controls to only critical option applications. Well, no, I don't think so. If you restrict controls to only critical application, then
This
uh,
B should be most relevant.
focus on audio. Yeah, B is relevant. I think. I'm not confident though,
Yes,
honestly.
same here. I'm also confused between putting it focus on key controls and between
Is there an
restrict
explanation?
controls to
Uh,
only critical applications.
See,
Let me
what's the
suppose
answer and read the explanation as well because we are
yeah,
not sure about it.
it's B, focus on key controls. Key controls primarily reduce risk and most effective for the protection of information assets. The other choices could be examples of possible key controls. Ah, okay. So the other ones are the subset of this one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. Next. Okay, the most appropriate owner of customer data stored in a central database used only by an organization's sales department would be the A, sales department, B, database administrator, C, chief information officer, D, head of sales department.
Yeah. Straightforward.
Yeah, chief information officer.
No.
Sales department.
No.
Why you are saying that? No, in a central database. Appropriate owner of customer data stored in a central database used by an organization's sales department. So
Head of.
it could be head of sales
Head of.
department or chief information officer. Neither
Head of sales
database,
department.
neither sales department. Okay.
No, no, my friend. Understand the hierarchy.
Yeah.
You are the head of the sales department is the owner of the sales department's data. You know what I mean? Wherever it's based, it doesn't matter. Head
Mhm.
is responsible. Head is the owner.
Okay. Why is it not chief information officer?
Because it's a sales database where he can be have the ownership of the whole
Yeah,
base.
because he's in the, I mean, he's the senior most and he is responsible if this data gets
It,
breached.
there is no senior most in in information security, my friend. I'll tell you something which you need to
Okay.
understand. That data is owned by the departments and the departments are run by the heads. Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
So one person have to take the ownership of it, and that's going to be the head of the sales department.
Okay. Okay. The owner of the information asset should be the person with the decision making power in the department deriving the most benefit from the asset. In this case, it would be the head of sales department. The organizational unit cannot be the owner of the asset because that removes personal responsibility. Database administrator is a custodian. Chief information officer would not be an owner of this database because the CIO is less likely to be knowledgeable about the specific needs of sales operations and security concerns. Okay, got your point. Next. Okay. In assessing the degree to which an organization may be affected by new privacy legislation, information security management should first A, develop an operational plan for achieving compliance with the legislation, B, identify systems and processes that contain privacy components, C, restrict the collection of personal information until compliant, no, until compliant, sorry. D, identify privacy legislation in other countries that may contain similar requirements.
Well, I have used a technique which is called the most valid answer. Yeah.
Okay.
So the first thing which you want to do is cannot
Identify.
be development, cannot be restriction. So it
Yeah.
has to be identify
Yeah.
and identify privacy legislation in other countries is a very wrong answer.
Yeah, so
So
B should be the answer.
I will go back to my answer, which is identify system and processes that contains privacy. So it'll be B for me.
Yes.
Now, if I look at why, this is the methodology I've used just
Mm-hmm.
to narrow out the right one. But
Mm-hmm.
if I want to see in a scholarly way, why? So it will be so I do want all of us to know the both techniques, because sometimes you are not sure, and when you're
Mm-hmm.
not sure, at least what you can do is make the most appropriate selection in MCQs. That is why I narrowed it down, that you cannot do development, you cannot do restriction, because obviously first you have to identify.
Okay.
So there is a method to this madness as well. Obviously, I did not just come across something which is called guessing scheme. It is obviously there is a method to this madness. So in assessing the degree to which an organization may be affected with a new privacy legislation, information security manager, what would he first do? He would first look at the systems and processes where actually there is privacy components, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
then he'll be affected. So first he's going to identify there may be the case of this new privacy legislation is not even applicable to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say B.
Yeah. Same here. Okay. Should we continue or do you
We
have
will
time?
continue to 300, because then obviously at least we know we have done 300 questions.
Yeah. Sure. Let's move. Okay. Okay, the next is risk assessment is most effective when performed A at the beginning of security program development, B on continuous basis, C while developing the business case for the security program, D during the business change process.
We discussed that
Yeah.
the, the new way
Mhm.
of it is it is not the way things used to be back in the days. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it should be on
So
a
risk
continuous basis.
assessment is done when?
On a continuous basis. It shouldn't be, I mean,
No,
yeah, it should be
no,
done on a continuous basis because,
no. It's the most effective when it's done in the very beginning. When you are developing the business case for the security program, when then you do it in the very initial stage, that is the most effective. Yeah, it is
okay.
effective on a continuous basis,
Yeah.
but it is the most effective when done in the initial stage, right?
Yeah, exactly. Initial stage. But I
Because
was thinking that
if you do
continuous
risk
basis will
assessment,
encompass all the other options.
yeah, because if you do on continuous basis, it does have effectiveness, but it's not the most effective. Yeah,
Okay.
because anything which is already saturated
Mm-hmm.
can have a level of saturation, but when it was the most saturated at the point when there was nothing in there, you put
Mm-hmm.
sugar in a glass and it gets saturated in the very beginning because there's no sugar in it. If you start keep putting more sugar in, it
Mm-hmm.
will stop saturating. So the most
Uh,
effectiveness of the risk assessment is uh, actually seen when developing the business case for the security program. Uh,
okay.
or no, actually, I'll change my mind, because I think um,
For me, it should be the continuous basis because it encompasses the other three. What do you say?
I think it's C, but I don't know, man. Maybe it's B. You know, it crossed my mind
Mm-hmm.
that uh, effectiveness is not like saturation.
Yeah.
Effectiveness is ever effectiveness. It's a continuous process, right?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It might be B. It might be C. I'm not sure. So I'm not gonna say I'm an expert in this. Maybe first I was thinking C, and I
Mm-hmm.
was logicking myself and giving an example of C, but now where something strike my head and thinking, no, it may be actually if it's done on continuous. So if we do carry on, because I do this on continuous basis, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're right, absolutely right.
I was thinking that if we do at the beginning or while developing the business case, it already encompass. I mean, the B option already encompass this thing, and even the during business change process. So basically, if you do it on a continuous basis, it will encompass all the other three options. I was
Yeah,
thinking it that way.
because I think management is most effective when you keep doing it, right?
Yeah.
No, I got actually lost in the translation because I was thinking more uh, sort of like trying to answer the question in the most logical way rather than in security way. Sometimes you have to break free from the logical way and answer it. Uh, in being a security professional, you need to know that how you're going to get more effectiveness out of it, because if you have a risk register and you keep doing the assessment, keep adding the risk on there, that is the best methodology, isn't it?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Okay, let's move on to the next question. At least this
okay.
this this was wrong for me, so I will come back to it again.
Okay, no problem. Okay, which of the following is the main reason for performing risk assessment on a continuous basis? A, justification of the security budget must be continually made. B, new vulnerabilities are discovered every day. C, the risk environment is constantly changing. D, management needs to be continually informed about emerging risks.
Yeah,
C.
yeah, I agree. See.
Yeah, this risk environment is constantly changing. That's why we continuously perform risk assessment.
Yeah.
Okay, let's move to the next one. Okay, there is a time lag between the time when a security vulnerability is first published and the time when a patch is delivered. Which of the following should be carried out first to mitigate the risk during this time period? Okay, A, identify the vulnerable systems and apply compensating controls. B, minimize the use of vulnerable systems. C, communicate the vulnerability to system users. D, update the signages database of the intrusion detection system.
Yeah, that's straightforward.
Yeah, A,
Yeah, A.
identify the vulnerable systems and
Yeah,
apply compensation.
you put a workaround for time being, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same. Yeah, it's, we are right. Okay, next is which of the following security activities should be implemented in the change management process to identify key vulnerabilities introduced by changes? A, business impact analysis. B, penetration testing. C, audit and review. D, threat analysis.
Yeah. Which one do you think?
Business impact analysis.
No,
No?
don't agree with you. No, I don't agree with you. Which of the following security activities should be implemented in change management process to identify key vulnerabilities introduced by you find vulnerabilities by doing a pen test? Yeah.
Should be implemented in the change management process. In the change management process, you don't perform penetration testing.
Which of the following security activities should be implemented in the chain? Yeah, you have a cab does have a pen test in it. Who says that?
You are performing a change.
Yeah, when you are performing a change, you do the pen test. All
You
right,
do,
let's put
you
it in.
either do it before or after performing the change, not
Mm,
during performing a change. That's what I'm thinking.
when which of the following I want to. Which of the following security activities should be implemented in the change management process? You are adding in the process. It doesn't mean you are doing during. You have to
Oh,
have
okay. Introduced by changes means after the changes, right?
the activity has to go in the cab. Yeah, inside your
Uh,
change mm, um, management process. Yeah,
mhm.
if you put it inside there, obviously if you want to identify vulnerabilities, then you have to add penetration testing into your change management process.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why would you not look at the business impact analysis?
You don't find vulnerabilities with business impact analysis.
Yeah, got your
You
point.
get
Yeah.
you need to do a pen test
But
to
why,
find.
and why we cannot choose the option C, audit and review, because audit could be of any type, like vulnerability assessment is
On
also
it,
a type of.
on it reviews, analysis, analysis, threat intelligence, blah blah blah. Nothing is gonna find the vulnerability. It's
Yeah,
only going to be
exactly.
pen test.
Okay,
Yeah.
got your point. Got your point now. Yeah. Penetration testing focuses on identifying vulnerabilities. None of the other choices would identify vulnerabilities introduced by changes. Got your point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Which of
do
the
pen
following?
test. I do pen testing every day. I have got a agent running. Yeah, which is provides pen test. I am on top of my vulnerabilities all the time. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. So I don't have to wait for a external to come and do a penetration testing. I have monthly. I have a weekly pen test,
Oh,
and I have.
okay. Over here, it's a different trend in GCC, especially because most of the time the penetration testing is being done by the third party rather than from the internal resource.
I, I don't even do pen testing. Yeah,
Uh,
external doesn't do pen testing. We have a process which
mhm.
can be done by me or can be done um, by the agent, the
Okay.
automated agent. So once I do this test, I can automate it for future. You know what I mean? All my all my servers are running agent which can do scheduled pen testing. You
Okay.
know? Yeah.
Well, and what tool do you have over there?
I'm using. I don't know if I can tell you.
CoInspect?
Yeah, it's confidential.
Yeah, because there are few that do automated pen testing here.
Yeah,
Most
yeah, yeah.
probably
But
CoInspect.
to my organization, obviously, I'm on YouTube, then I can be identified, isn't it? So obviously, what tools I use shouldn't be known publicly. Yeah,
Yeah, sure.
but you can ask me off this call.
Okay, no problem. Okay, next is which of the following techniques most clearly indicates whether specific risk reduction controls should be implemented? A, countermeasure cost benefit analysis, B, penetration testing, C, frequent risk assessment programs, D, annual loss expectancy calculation. Most clearly indicates whether specific risk reduction controls should be implemented.
So techniques more clearly indicates whether specific risk reduction controls should be implemented. So obviously, yeah,
Countermeasure cost benefit
yeah,
analysis.
yeah, cost benefit analysis against specific reduction controls. So it will be countermeasure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Next. Okay. An organization has decided to implement additional security controls to treat the risks of a new process. This is an example of A, eliminating the risk, B, transferring the risk, C, mitigating the risk, D, accepting the risk. C.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, let's move to the next one.
What is risk transfer, by the way?
Risk transfer, if you buy an insurance against any risk, that's a transfer of risk.
Good.
Okay, which of the following roles is primarily responsible for determining the information classification levels for a given information asset? A, manager, B, custodian, C, user, D, owner.
Yeah,
I think
straightforward. We have answered it before.
owner, yeah. Next. The primary reason for assigning classes of sensitivity and criticality to information resources is to provide a basis for A, determining the scope for inclusion in an information security program, B, defining the level of access controls, C, justifying costs for information resources, D, determining the overall budget of an information security program. Primary
So,
reason.
what is the primary reason for assigning classes of sensitive and criticality to information resources? Why?
Provide a basis for uh, defining the justifying cost for information resources. I guess it's to justify cost for information resources.
No, you have you have been assigning the classes of
Yeah.
sensitivity and criticality, so it has nothing to do with the cost. Yeah, it
Yeah.
has everything to do with level of access required. So that's why you put it down as how is it going to be public, is it going to be confidential.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay, got the point now. Okay, okay,
yeah,
okay, got it. So it should be
yeah.
the B, right? Defining the level of access controls.
Yes.
Got your point. Ah, okay. Okay, let's move to the next one. An organization is already certified to an international security standard. Which mechanism would best help to further align the organization with other data security regulatory requirements as per new business needs? A, key performance indicators, B, business impact analysis, C, gap analysis, D, technical vulnerability assessment. It's already certified. Which mechanism would best help to further align the organization with other data security regulatory requirements as per new business needs? New business needs, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Straightforward, very straightforward.
Yeah, gap analysis.
Gap analysis.
Okay, let's move to the next one. When performing a qualitative risk analysis, which of the following will best produce reliable results? A, estimated productivity losses. B, possible scenarios with threats and impacts. C, value of information assets. D, vulnerability assessment.
I don't think you'll answer this one right.
Performing a qualitative risk analysis, best produce reliable results.
So it's a
A and
that
D, eliminate A and D first. So it should be between B and C. Let's, okay. Possible scenarios with threats and impacts. C, value of information assets. Mhm. Performing a qualitative risk
it's
analysis.
very straightforward though.
Possible
I'm
scenarios with threats and impacts.
it's very straightforward, yeah.
Yeah, B, right?
Because that's the definition of qualitative, man.
Yeah,
Because you are actually talking about possibilities, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's always qualitative is always the scenarios or with threats and impact. Okay.
Yeah.
Right, guys. Thanks for watching this video. I don't know if it was useful for you guys, but it was definitely very useful for me and my colleagues who are not in this session at the moment. So thank you everyone for watching this. Can you stop this recording now, please?
Yeah. Stop.